Christmas time at Aunt Polly's. Now, when I was a little girl, I'll admit I didn't like going to Aunt Polly's house because she dipped snuff and she spat in the fireplace and the fire would sizzle when she hit it, which was every single time because that woman was a dead ringer for spitting. She could kill a squirrel dead on and fried up a lot of the little boogers in her iron skillets for dinner. She was an ornery old cuss of a woman with a shock of white hair that always stood up on her head like it had a mind of its own. And she wore big dangly earrings and red lipstick most of the time. And she smelled like a combination of snuff, Vicks Vapor Rub, and cigars. When you had to go, that is, to the bathroom at Aunt Polly's, you had to go outside in a little wooden outhouse that had two holes cut in a board, and I was always afraid of what might be down there, because most of the time you would hear things moving in the leaves, and in summertime, well, you had to keep your eye on the big wasp nest under the eaves. Now, if it was Christmas, we'd always take the ride up to her place and spend the day. She always had a scraggly little tree decorated with the oddest things I've ever seen. The tree had a string of lights on it that half worked. Out of the 20 or so lights, maybe 8 of them glowed pale red, green, and blue. There'd be a half-finished string of popcorn on the thing, and pictures she'd cut out of magazines taped to construction paper, and bits and pieces of candy wrappers, if they were silver, and she never did wrap presents in Christmas paper, like the rest of us, but she wrapped them in the Sunday funnies instead, or sometimes in cardboard boxes she'd taken from behind the grocery. Aunt Polly gave some strange presents, too. She'd take all the leftover shotgun shells from her squirrel hunting and stuff the empty casings with a dollar bill and tie a bow around them to give as presents, or she would give you a box of crackers or cookies. And she was always making hats or change purses out of old castaway clothing and socks and things. I would always roll my eyes at the things she gave me, but one look from my mother would put an end to that, and I would say, "Thank you, Aunt Polly."
Thank you, Aunt Polly.
But this one Christmas, well, I'll never forget. She gave Uncle Ray the strangest present she ever gave anyone. See, Uncle Ray lived off down in Alabama City by himself in a mill village house. He was a confirmed bachelor and quite the loner. But on Christmas, someone would always pick him up and take him to Aunt Polly's for Christmas dinner because Uncle Ray didn't drive. Now, there were a lot of cats and dogs at Aunt Polly's. The cats lived under the house and the dogs just rambled around mostly. Uncle Ray was always picking up a cat to pet when he visited, so I guess Aunt Polly thought he needed one. There was this one tomcat that was yellow with white stripes and a blotch of brown fur around his nose and eyes that were yellow as yellow could be, and he was a cranky thing. But on Thanksgiving, Ray had taken to him and had spent the whole afternoon sitting on the porch rubbing him on the back. So after the big dinner of fried squirrel, chicken and dressing, and turnip greens, new potatoes, biscuits, gravy, ham, and squash, with a little slice of devil's food cake for dessert, we all settled into the parlor near that scraggly little tree for the presents. My mama gave me my warning look to be nice no matter what Aunt Polly gave me, and I took my seat with everyone else as she handed out the presents. First, she gave a shotgun shell with a $5 bill inside it to my dad, and one to Uncle George, Uncle Ray, Brother Ed, and Grandpa Joe. And then a scarf she'd made for my mother wrapped in a Belk Hudson sail paper with a brown piece of string wrapped around it, and a change purse to Aunt Shelley, Miss Annie, and Grandma Mary. And then she handed me a package wrapped in the Sunday funnies. I sat and slowly unwrapped that present to find a pair of hand-crocheted house slippers in the oddest shade of green I'd ever seen. They had plastic beads and flowers glued on the toes. On one slipper there was a faded yellow ribbon, and on the other a bright red one. "Thank you," I managed to say, and removed the newsprint she'd stuffed inside each one. There were only a couple of presents left under the tree as Aunt Polly bent to retrieve the last of them, and I swore that I saw one of those presents move, but I thought it was a trick of the imagination. "This one's for you," she said to my mother, who took the newspaper package and tore it open. It was a fruit jar full of buttons. Buttons of all shapes and sizes, big ones, red ones, green ones, yellow ones, and some brass buttons, too. Aunt Polly picked up the large cardboard box tied up with a crinkled leftover bow from some other Christmas and handed it to Uncle Ray. "Why, Polly, you didn't have to," he said as he took the box and pulled out his case knife to cut the ribbon. The blade sliced the ribbon like butter, and it fell from the cardboard as he pulled open the flap and peered inside. "What on earth was all Uncle Ray managed to say before the big yellow tomcat came bounding out of the box with a meow and crawled up in Ray's lap. "What on earth is this?" he cried. "Why, Ray," Polly said, "that's your kitty now. So as you won't never be lonely again," she said with her hands pressed to her heart. It took Ray a good hour to catch the cat again, but by nightfall we were all packed in the car with our presents and headed for home. The old Tom sat on Uncle Ray's shoulder and yowled at each passing car as we headed back to Alabama City and home. When the cat got settled in, he and Uncle Ray were inseparable, spending afternoons on the porch in the warm sun and snuggled under those quilts at night. He and that Tom went everywhere together. The old cat would ride on his shoulder. The next winter, when Christmas rolled around, Ray gave Aunt Polly a fuzzy little yellow kitten named Tommy, too. And Ray always said after that, that was the best present Aunt Polly ever gave.